Get ready for The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's dedicated update show. Events, businesses, and people. Anything and anyone causing a ripple in the community. And now, let's dive in to The Splash Live.
Good morning and welcome to The Splash Live. I am Larry Nyland. Thank you to everyone from West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake for tuning in on this Thursday morning. The Splash Live is Greater West Bloomfield's very own daily TV and radio streaming show. Always watch us live Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 10 a.m. on Civic Center TV. Catch us on Comcast Channel 15, AT&T Channel 99, on the web at civiccentertv.com, on Civic Center TV's Facebook app, and you can even listen live on 89.3 Lakes FM. The Splash Live is part of Civic Center TV and Lake FM's 90 minutes of live local programming. Looking at today's weather today, well, hello fall. We definitely can tell it's the first day of the new season as temps are going to be over 25 degrees cooler today than yesterday's last day of summer. We're looking at cloudy skies with a high of only about 58 this afternoon. Tonight it's going to be clear and definitely the coldest temp since last spring as we are heading down to about 43 degrees. And looking ahead to Friday, mostly sunny skies with a high of around 64. Looking at some headlines going on around the area today, a couple of nights ago in Sylvan Lake, it was discovered that someone went through several mailboxes in town and dumped mail onto the street. Officers believe the incident occurred between 4:30 and 7:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. Chief Corey O'Donohue says the investigation is ongoing, and anyone with any information on this is asked to please call 248-672-0602. Also looking ahead to the election coming up this November, along with voting for candidates for elected offices, voters in West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake, and Sylvan Lake will also help decide whether to approve a new county-wide millage and opt into an agreement with the Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation, or SMART. Currently, only one of our 4 local communities, West Bloomfield, does opt in to SMART bus services to aid the mobility of its senior citizen population, which is 23% of the total West Bloomfield population. If this millage passes, every community in Oakland County would have to pay into a .95 mil collections, which is 95 cents for every $1,000 of taxable value of a home for 10 years. We will continue to follow this story here on the Splash Live until Election Day. Our West Bloomfield Lakers, they now sit as the number 2 team in all of Division I football behind only Belleville in both the Associated Press and the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association polls. They look to improve their record to 5-0 on Friday with a road tilt at Rochester Adams. On this week's edition of This Week in Laker Football, our own Tyler Keefe spoke with Laker defensive tackle Xavier Davis, and Tyler asked Xavier about how the team has prepared for all of its future opponents as the season has progressed so far.
We've prepared very good in practice. Coach Grice makes sure we are always prepared for every game. Very detailed. We know what they're gonna do before they're gonna do it. We know what the formations are gonna run, how many times they run it per game. Just preparation is the biggest thing. Coach has some things I forgot it, but I know it's something about preparation, and he loves to say it all the time.
Being on that defensive line with so much talent there as well, how does that, having guys like Brandon and Jonathan, Steven, on that line along with you help to not only bolster your performance, but also the danger that comes with going up against a defensive front like West Bloomfield's?
We are all brothers on the D-line. We're a whole family on the team. Whatever I put down, they pick up, especially Brandon and big baby Jeremiah. And yeah.
So you and others have mentioned this. You mentioned the family aspect of your particular position group, but also really the general team as a family as well. What do you believe makes that work in that way? What do you believe about your team makes you a family?
You really have to buy into it. During summer camp, it was very hard. We had practice from like 12 to like 7 p.m. And, who likes to argue first thing in the morning? And we all knew each other before high school really much. So it's just a brotherhood that's built beyond time. But just like every family, we have our arguments and everything else. So, but we're a family at the end of the day before anything.
So this isn't your first season on the varsity squad. It's not your first time playing against some of these more competitive teams in the state. Having that experience, that playoff experience, but also the experience of losing in the playoffs in the past, how does that for you and some of the other vets coming back this year on the team, how does that motivate you to go into each of these games, especially tough games like you have coming up on the road against Rochester Adams?
Last season it definitely lit a fire under us. I'm talking about we had the best offseason we probably ever had in West Bloomfield history. Shout out to our strength and conditioning coach, Coach John Reyes. But yeah, definitely lit a fire under us. We are taking this season very serious because we do have, to me, the best chance to win a state championship. So yeah, especially going against Rochester this upcoming week, it's the biggest game of the season for us, honestly. So like I said, preparation, but it definitely lit a fire on us, and we definitely want to get them.
We're joined by Xavier Davis on This Week in Laker Football, West Bloomfield defensive tackle. And Xavier, as your team goes further along in the season, and particularly the more veteran leadership like yourself, Brandon, and others on the defensive side of the ball, in terms of a whole unit and that front seven in particular, what do you guys need to do and continue to improve on going forward this season, in your opinion, in order to make you guys the absolute contender in D1 for the state championship?
It's just the details, you know. In practice, sometimes we might horse play or play around a little bit. We just have to focus more. We have to look into our play sheets more, and we just have to really lock in, and we have to stop all the little arguments and stuff that be happening. But we just have to really lock in with each other, and you know, when we have our foot on people next, we can't let go because that's when people start to come back. So we have to win in all aspects of the game.
It goes into every single week because you can go up against a couple of competitive teams like Clarkston and Rochester Adams, always there contending in the red with you, always contending at the statewide level for a championship as well. But then you go up against other teams later on in the season. That's how you run into a trap game. So that's exactly the mindset you want to hear from the L-Boys at this time. Xavier, in the classroom, you're a student, and outside the classroom on the football field, you're still a student of the game. You and all your teammates are high schoolers. You're coming up in this game. You're continuing to learn, but this time at a high level. For you, what have been some of your focus areas over the last couple of years in particular to refine your game and become the best D lineman you could possibly be?
Just really working with our D-line coach, Coach Ivy, doing whatever Coach Grace tells me to do in the offseason if I need to get bigger, stronger, faster, whatever that is. Know how I have a lot of great veterans in front of me, Mike Williams, Jana Green, Caleb, Chris, Niles. So I really looked up to them, and I took this offseason very personal. So yeah, I took this. That's how I prepared, really.
Joined by Xavier Davis on This Week in Laker Football, West Bloomfield High School defensive tackle on today's edition of the program. Xavier, we ask this of everyone that comes on all the players outside of the game of football. What are some of your greatest areas of interest or your hobbies?
I like to cook a lot, to be honest. I like to watch TV, a lot of anime, really, and I like to listen to music a lot. If you see me in school, I always have my headphones in, AirPods, Beats, whatever it is. I like to listen to music a lot.
What's the top of your playlist right now?
That's a hard question. Maybe like 42 Doug or something like that. I listen to a lot of Detroit rappers, to be honest with you. That's it, to be honest. I only listen to rap. I don't listen to no singing stuff, really, so nothing like that.
Xavier, anything else that you'd like to say at this time about the football team or anything else about West Bloomfield before we let you go?
If you're watching this, come to West Bloomfield than any other high school out here. We the best in the state of Michigan, I promise you.
That was Xavier Davis, defensive tackle for the West Bloomfield Lakers. And be sure to tune in to Civic Center TV and WBTV and 89.3 Lakes FM for all the Laker football action this Friday beginning at 6 p.m. Looking ahead to next weekend, it's going to be Fire Prevention Week, which is almost here, and the West Bloomfield Fire Department is holding its annual open house on Sunday, October 2nd. Come down and get to experience firsthand how to prevent fires and to learn more about what our firefighters do to keep our community safe. Here's a quick promo for the Fire Department open house. Let's take a look.
Fire Prevention Week is just around the corner. Join volunteer, part-time, and on-call firefighters at this year's Fire Open House. Catch up on your fire safety knowledge with live demonstrations and hands-on activities. Chat with local businesses and resources about fire prevention, see some familiar faces, fight future fires, and make some new friends. The West Bloomfield Fire Open House, October 2nd from noon to 3 p.m. at Fire Station 1 on Orchard Lake Road.
And our own Dave Scott and Tyler Keefe will be broadcasting live from that open house. We're going to take a quick short break here, and when we come back, we'll join with our good friends from West Bloomfield Parks. That's next here on The Splash Live.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick.
The virus will die.
It will be easy to not catch it.
Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer.
Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine.
To keep safe and strong.
Be like happy, having fun everywhere.
Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Fire Prevention Week is just around the corner. Join volunteer, part-time, and on-call firefighters at this year's Fire Open House. Catch up on your fire safety knowledge with live demonstrations and hands-on activities. Chat with local businesses and resources about fire prevention, see some familiar faces, fight future fires, and make some new friends. The West Bloomfield Fire Open House, October 2nd from noon to 3 p.m. at Fire Station 1 on Orchard Lake Road. And now, back to the Splash, live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live. I am Larry Allen. Well, just because the weather is getting cooler doesn't mean we can't go out and enjoy a lot of the things West Bloomfield Parks has to offer. Joining us this morning is the Interim Executive Director for West Bloomfield Parks, Joe Ketchum. Joe, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
So, Joe, I mentioned that you're the current Interim Executive Director for West Bloomfield Parks, and you also served as Park Superintendent for over 30 years. I don't think we've ever asked you about your background, but can you talk a little bit about how you came to West Bloomfield Parks originally and what sparked your interest in nature in the first place?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'm from Petoskey, Michigan, and my dad was the Parks and Recreation Director for the city of Petoskey. So I grew up in Parks and Recreation and attended Central Michigan University, where I have a community recreation major from Central Michigan University. And I graduated on a Saturday and started on a Monday here in West Bloomfield 30 years ago.
Wow. So it wasn't a big interview process. You weren't like going, oh, how am I going to get my first job? You had a Saturday and a Monday, and 30 years later.
Yeah, it was interesting. Actually, when my dad had left the city of Petoskey, Dave Burley became the Parks and Recreation Director, and I actually worked for Dave while I was in high school and college, and Dave ended up down here as the Deputy Director for West Bloomfield Parks, and he hired me right out of college.
No. So you should hold like a seminar where you tell kids, hey, how to keep a job for 30 years with one interview.
Yes, it's kind of crazy to think that I basically had one interview 30 years ago and walked into this career, and it's been a great place to, West Bloomfield has been a great community to work for. The community supports the parks. A lot of communities aren't set up like West Bloomfield, where we have a Parks Commission and our separate millages that fund us, and I think it really benefits the residents and also our workers and what we're able to accomplish in the parks here in West Bloomfield.
So, Joe, I know during the summer weather months, there's a lot of modifications and improvements that happen to a lot of the parks locations. But now that the weather is changing, I'm guessing this is the time where you plan some future projects. Can you tell us what work is on the horizon to improve the parks for the folks of West Bloomfield?
Sure. Just, we had a major parking lot renovation that took us 3 years down at Drake Road Sports Park, and that is finally finishing up. We were closed in the spring, this summer. Early summer, but the park's back open. We still have a few things to finish up on that parking lot. We originally were supposed to have hawk lights being put in at what we call Orchard Lake number 2 and Orchard Lake number 3 crossings along the West Bloomfield Trail along the Orchard Lake Road. That is a tri-party funded project. That means that West Bloomfield donates money, the city of Orchard Lake has donated money, and Oakland County Road Commission and Oakland County put in money. However, because of supply chain issues, we have that project has not been bid out yet. It should get bid this fall, and we look for hopefully installation in the spring of next year. So hopefully we look for those hawk lights, which are basically stop lights along the Orchard Lake. So when people are trying to cross Orchard Lake Road, they're going to be able to hit a button. The hawk lights will come on flashing and then go to a solid red, and the people on the trail can cross the road at Orchard Lake safely. And we've been trying to get those lights for years. This is a great collaboration between City of Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield Township, and the county. That's one of the, and right now we're in the budget plan for 2023. So we're just starting to outline some of our projects for next year. One of the major projects that we will have next year, so we received a $100,000 grant from Oakland County Parks. This is the first time Oakland County Parks has, when they passed their millage in 2018, I think, part of that millage was that they were going to give funds to local parks and recreation departments for projects. And we wrote a grant last year and we received it. So we will be, $100,000 grant will be going towards the installation of a new bathroom facility at Arrowhead, the trailhead at Arrowhead Road, what we call it in the nature preserve, the West Bloomfield Woods Nature Preserve, and the West Bloomfield Trail will get a new year-round bathroom facility at Arrowhead Road. We're looking forward to that. Like I said, I've been here since that trail was installed, and we've always had porta-johns out there. So we will really be happy to have a permanent, clean facility for our residents and for the people, the users of the trail.
So Joe, for years I've seen you at the West Bloomfield Parks committee meetings, and you seem to be maybe perhaps the biggest proponent of pickleball. I always associate you with pickleball. And pickleball is kind of it's out of control. I mean, it is becoming so popular. And are there any plans to build more pickleball courts in West Bloomfield for the demand?
So just so everybody knows, we're kind of on the front edge of that. We were able to take a safety town pad that we were underutilizing at Drake Sports Park and put in 4 pickleball courts. Since then, just this past summer, we renovated those 4 pickleball courts and all the tennis courts within the township that we own, which are the 5 at Drake Sports Park and the 2 at Keith Sports Park. At both those locations, at Drake, we have the 4 pickleball courts, the legal pickleball courts. But when we renovated the tennis courts, we put lines on the tennis courts at Drake. So we have 2 extra pickleball courts at Drake. So that brings us up to 6. And at Keith, we lined those. So we have 2 there. So you can play tennis and pickleball on those. So we have a total of 8 pickleball courts that people can use presently. And in our master plan that we went through in 2000, I got to think of the years now, 2021 is when we finished our last master plan. We identified that in the master plan to add, we want to make it like a pickleball area at Drake Sports Park, in which we would have a facility with 8 pickleball courts. Obviously, we just rented those existing pickleball courts. That would be something we would look to do in about 5 years, because at that time, the tennis courts at Drake will be about 30 years old. And that safety town pad, which is now the current pickleball courts, will be 30 years old. We would look at complete renovation of the tennis courts and pickleball courts and add 4 more pickleball courts and have a nice pickleball court. I don't know, what do you want to call it? Just a nice setting for the pickleball people, because it is a growing sport. It is actually out of control. And it's just not older people that are playing it now. Now you've got young kids playing it. There's professionals. It is a growing sport, kind of like tennis was in the 70s.
There was the National Pickleball Championship on, I think it was on ESPN3 or something, like a month ago. And you watch it, and it's like, it reminds you of like Forrest Gump playing ping pong. Okay, like this is not the pickleball that you see out on the court in West Bloomfield.
No, those are professionals. And actually, I think there's 2 professional leagues out there. It is crazy. They're talking about it becoming an Olympic sport too.
What about thoughts of having an indoor pickleball court somewhere?
Well, ideally, that's funny you bring that up. Yes, ideally, eventually, in our master plan, we identified that the recreation activity center here up at the Civic Center site, where Town Hall is and where our main offices are, it needs to have an expansion. And during that expansion time, we would look at turning this community center into a more active year-round center, in which we could hopefully include a gym, and obviously within that gym we would be able to play pickleball. So that's the future. We will be coming to the public for input on those plans soon. But yeah, our intentions, and once again, it was identified in the master plan, was to expand the recreation activity center. And one of those thoughts would be that we would add a gym that then we could have pickleball indoors.
Nice, very nice. That'll be great for the folks in the wintertime who want to play that pickleball.
Absolutely. And I know, and I'll just, not that I'm advertising, I know the sports club has indoor pickleball courts. I think some of the fitness areas like Lifetime Fitness offers it. I don't know if the school district has any rental opportunities out there. Ideally, when our Connect Senior Center closed up at Orchard Lake, we were looking at Abbott Middle School for the center. We were hoping to get that gym because that would have gave us the opportunity to have indoor pickleball. But we are presently right now looking for properties within the township to hopefully get the Connect back up and running, hopefully by the summer of 2023.
Joe, it was great talking to you this morning. I want to thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Have a great day. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to call the West Bloomfield Parks, and I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody. We do have some upcoming events that I'd like to talk about. Our Trick or Treat Trail has a few spots left in it for registration. That's October 23rd from 3 to 5. This Saturday, we have a garage sale going on the Civic Center site in front of our office. It's a community-wide garage sale. That's from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if you're looking for a one-stop garage sale where you can see, I think it's sold out. So we have all our spots sold out. So there should be a lot of good stuff for people who go out for garage sales can come out and buy some stuff. Those are the two main events that I wanted to talk about today.
Sounds great, Joe. That was Joe Ketchum, the Interim Executive Director for the West Bloomfield Parks. I want to thank him and thank those folks for all the great work they do over there. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to be visited by some folks who are bringing a classic Michigan bookstore to West Bloomfield. Don't go away. We'll be right back here on The Splash Live.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
And now, back to The Splash Live.
Welcome back to The Splash Live. I am Larry Nyland. Well, growing up in the Lansing area, I was a huge fan of the Schuler bookstores. They were a great place to find almost any book or publication you were looking for, and also a wonderful shop to grab some coffee and mingle with friends. Joining us now are the owners of Schuler Books, Bill and Cecile Fehsenfeld. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
So people might be asking, why are the owners of Schuler Books joining us on a West Bloomfield television show? Would you folks like to tell us the exciting news about Schuler Books in West Bloomfield?
Yeah.
Well, we're on our way to being part of the community. We're going to open a store there.
So do you know exactly the exact location of it and what the timetable is for when you're going to be opening?
Yeah, it's in Gateway Center, which is on Orchard Lake Road, just north of 14 Mile. And we're aiming to open late winter, early spring. It's underway right now. Getting ready.
And I think there's two vacant areas over there right now. One was a Steinmart and one was a PetSmart. Which location is it going to be in? Do you know?
We're in PetSmart.
Okay, PetSmart. So yeah, so you're right next to. I think you're on the end. Are you on the end, or there's a Henry Ford Eye Center right there?
We're next to the optimized Henry Ford. Optician, yeah, and at the other end of that strip is the Whole Foods and Walgreens. So
yeah, it's a very
great
good
mall.
Very good location.
So could you folks tell us a little bit about the history of Schuler Books? What inspired you to open a bookstore in the first place, and where was the first location?
Yeah,
well, I guess we ought to start with the fact that we met at a bookstore many years ago.
Yeah, in Ann Arbor. Actually, Cecile grew up in Georgia. But decided she wanted to move north, and the first place she landed was in Metro Detroit area.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lady that I knew there who was putting me up temporarily said, "No, you need to go check out Ann Arbor." And so I did, and it it was great.
And, we're both the type of person who would haunt bookstores and love to read, love books. And I was working at a textbook store at the time, and Cecile walked in and took a job there, and that's where we met.
Yeah,
so,
and I studied English undergraduate and graduate, so we're both big readers.
And then how did that come to where you said, hey, we're going to start our own bookstore?
Yeah, okay. So after I graduated from the University of Michigan, I worked for 5.5 years at Borders when they only had one store, and it was there in Ann Arbor. And as we started our family, we thought it'd be nice to be near my parents in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so we started looking in the Grand Rapids area for a potential location to open our own bookstore, which we found and opened in 1982. So we are just celebrating, actually tomorrow's the exact day, 40 years from when we first opened the doors of our first bookstore in Grand Rapids.
Wow, happy anniversary, early anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about, I mentioned at the top, some of your stores have these great cafes. Can you talk about those cafes and how that adds to the experience for customers shopping at a bookstore? And will the West Bloomfield location have a cafe?
Yeah, the space is not really big enough to accommodate that. And so we won't be doing a cafe. And in fact, there's some restriction because there's some other food providers in that mall. But just to give you context, that's a 19,000 square foot space. And the store you're familiar with in Oakland, the Lansing area, is 24,000 square feet. So, about 3,000 of that is dedicated to the cafe. It's just, there's not room to do it adequately and give the kind of presentation we want for the bookstore. So we did, about 8 years ago, we purchased a store in Ann Arbor that had been in business for 17 years, and the owner was looking to retire. And it does not have a cafe. It has a lot of food options right close by, which is similar to West Bloomfield. And we found that works perfectly well for us. Lets us focus entirely on our core mission, what we want to do, which is operate, a wonderful bookstore for people to shop and hang out in and so on.
So could you give us your online presence where people can reach out and so they can get updates on when exactly the West Bloomfield location is going to open?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website, of course, www.schulerbooks.com, which is SCHULERBOOKS.com. Also on Facebook, you can search for Schuler Books. We have a big presence there, and also recently, the last couple of years on TikTok, we had a viral posting on TikTok that I can't remember what the score is now, but it was multiple millions of views and followers from all over the world, actually, who have been following that. But Facebook is a very good place to stay up to date on things as they develop.
Well, I can't tell you how excited everyone is for this bookstore to be opening. About 5 years ago, they closed the Barnes & Noble, so we have been without a bookstore for all these years. So we cannot wait until you guys open, and we'd love to be there for your grand opening.
That's really great to hear that. So you like to sit down with a real book?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and still a newspaper as well. So
okay. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there's a lot of people that really do like to do that. And they love to come into a bookstore and peruse and just walk around, looking at one aisle after the other. It's part of the process of seeing what's available and seeing what you want to read and being around other people who are reading and stopping and talking to somebody who's working there and ask them if they've read it. It becomes kind of in a way, a big family of people who are really committed to the written word. It's a happy thing that we've been doing.
People wonder about how you compete with the online world, and what we offer is an environment. One of our booksellers was telling us just the other day about a friend who told her she had a very stressful day and she just needed to relax. And she thought, I'll go to Schuler Books because I just enjoy hanging out there. It's a social experience for people. And it's interesting, during the pandemic, our online sales basically skyrocketed when people couldn't go out and shop. But the experience people had was very different than you normally would have online, where you're interacting with an algorithm. People might order a book and they might order an edition that had gone out of print. So they chose the wrong edition. And they get a phone call from one of our booksellers who would say, that copy, that particular edition of the book is not available, but we do have the current edition. May I send that to you? So even online, they have that personal interaction with our booksellers. And we've been really lucky. The people who have worked in our stores are terrific. Great with our book-loving customers.
Well, that's something we're going to look forward to here in West Bloomfield. Bill and Cecile Fehsenfeld, we want to thank you so much for joining us. They're the owners of Schuler Books coming to West Bloomfield. That's going to do it for us on the Splash Live. We will see you tomorrow in West Bloomfield.